So hello, my name's Nigel Bird, and my colleagues and I are here to talk to you a little bit today about the UK's building programme to modernise its Antarctic infrastructure, with a sort of flavour of why we've decided to work as a partnership and why we use the NEC form of contract to support that activity, although more about Antarctica probably than anything else. We're each going to have a little 5-minute chat to you about the element of the programme that's of interest to us, and there'll be some time for questions at the end. So without further ado, I'm going to get started. So you can see, here's who we are. My name's Nigel Bird. I work for the Natural Environment Research Council, which means I work for you because that's a government-funded agency responsible for environmental science in the UK. Our programme is a £300 million programme of work over about a 10-year period. It includes a ship, some marine infrastructure in Antarctica, and a couple of buildings in Antarctica too. We're going to talk to you about that today. More about the buildings than I am about the ship. Many of you will know the ship because it's also known as, yeah, you're out now. It's also known as the Sir David Attenborough. Yes, there's a whole different presentation about how the naming and blah, 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 blah. You'll have to ask me at the lunch break. You'll also have to buy me gin and tonic if you want that full story. 2 gin and tonics, and I'll tell you about some of the other fantastic names that we had suggested, which can't be printed, but they were brilliant. That's a different story altogether. So here's a great fun photo of a chap called John Rotherer, who was the explorer, scientist, surveyor, that identified the place in Antarctica where the UK has its main Antarctic research station. So here he is in 1957. He started the construction of it by piling some stones up together. And here's lesson one. Lesson 1. Always be the man in the photo, not the man taking the photo. Yeah, because I don't know who the chap was taking the photo. And the station's not named after him, it's named after John Rotherer. Those with keen eyes will see he's having a cheeky cigarette as well. No, he spoiled my photo, but that's what it is. I met him recently, but I haven't got enough time to tell you about that now, sadly. So the partnership that we put together, again, you can look at our logos there. Each of you are going to talk to you. I'm going to elaborate on that as we go through the presentation today. But first about my organisation, the Natural Environment Research Council. We're the part of government that sponsors environmental science in the UK. Largely through 3 different elements. The first is, as you can see on my slide behind me, the maintenance, ownership and operation of large research infrastructure. So that's ships, aircraft, research laboratories and stations across the world. Again, you can ask me about that. The scope of that, the environment is inside, on, around, in the water, on the land, in the air. Yes, the whole ecosystem that is planet Earth. Again. So that's me, that's my organisation. Why should you be interested in this talk? And nobody's tried to leave yet, but why should you be interested in this talk? Because our programme is funded by your money. I'm assuming you're UK taxpayers. If not, see me afterwards. I can sign you up for that. We're funded by the UK taxpayer. This is your money that we're investing. So here's my challenge to you as the audience. As we're talking, think about ways where you could improve our programme. Yeah, because it's your programme, it's your money. There's a couple of announcements behind us where the money was announced. But really, why should you be interested? And why does the work that you do and we do make a difference? So I've got a couple of slides here about the science that the British Antarctic Survey does and why it's relevant to you. And I spent ages trying to find a photo close to here, and I think I succeeded, relatively close to here, showing the flood defences in London and how they've changed in height over periods of time. Yes, many of you have heard about the sea level might actually be rising. There's a clue there. Large research programmes into the scale, the cause and the nature of that. Quite important stuff that you're contributing to through your help in invigorating contracting. Is it going to be important going forward into the future? Well, we can't be certain about that, except for, here's a real photo of a flood event in London. I can't remember the date, 2000 and something. Showing again floodwaters rising. You should be interested in the work that we're doing the work that you're paying for. So please be interested as we talk to you through the programme. So what is the programme? Well, very briefly, 30 seconds on our programme. It's sort of a 10-year programme to modernise all the UK's infrastructure. I started off talking to you with a slide about the ship that we're having built in Liverpool at the moment. That'll be finished at the end of this year. We're also building some really large-scale marine infrastructure, which David will talk to you about, and a few buildings, which Graham will talk to you about in a moment. Again, you can ask me about this, or you can Google us and you can find all this stuff out online. So briefly, why partnerships? Why have we decided to have a partnership approach to our business? Again, well, the answer is, personally, it's a personal way I like to do business, but also, think about Antarctica. It's a tricky place to do work for contractors, and it's a tricky place to live and organise. So you'll hear a bit more about this later. What can we each bring to partnerships? That's a key question. So I'll pop this slide up there to show that it's not easy working in Antarctica. We wouldn't expect our construction partners to have experience of working in the extreme cold, at working at sometimes extreme altitude and also in extremely dry conditions. The British Antarctic Survey has got over 60 years experience, and we need to bring these things together and that genuinely work in partnership. My sort of last slide, and this is a fun one. Has anybody ever tried to get to Antarctica? So here's another challenge for those of you when you're bored during our presentations. Try and Google how you're going to get there, because it's a pretty tricky place to get to. It's even more difficult to try to get construction materials there. Again, who are the experts in getting materials and ships to Antarctica? Well, that'll be the British Antarctic Survey. We're only going to do our construction in partnership, because we'll need to provide the logistic support for our construction partner to do the work. Now, I can see your brain starting to think about the contractual realities of that. We need to rely upon each other in that regard. How will the start date of construction be decided? It'll be decided by the delivery date of the first batch of materials, I suspect. What's the barriers to that? Well, you can see in my slide. To get there, you've got to get through all that first. Again, we can't be certain which day that will be, maybe even which month that might be. So you can see that we've decided on a construction partnership approach. So I'm just the preamble bit. I'm the warm-up act for the serious guys. They're going to come and talk to you now about the things that are going to be a real interest to you. So do think of your questions. Come and find us either at the end of this talk or afterwards, how you can add value to us. Graham, it's you.
Thank you, Nigel. Good morning, everyone. I had to tick that corporate box, so just a quick summary of who BAM is. Well, it's a joint venture for British Antarctic Survey between BAM Nuttall, our UK Civil Engineering Operations Division, and BAM International, our international company. So BAM, well, we're made up of 10 operating companies. We've got over 20,000 employees, sort of revenue last year of over €6 billion. And we're in the top 3 contractors in the UK and number 1 in the Netherlands. So, and we're together with our design partners, Sweco, for this. So, what was our strategy? Well, I think we all know some of the challenges that face some of our peers, both with profit warnings, liquidation, and BAM, certainly we wanted to reduce the risk of our contract portfolio. We wanted to increase 2-stage tendering opportunities within the NEC suite of contracts. We wanted to be able to help bring opportunity to employers through early contractor involvement. We wanted to positively contribute to the programme, design, buildability and logistics, and collaborate with employers, bringing that joint benefit of reducing risk. So as a company, that was our strategy. Keen to sort of move away from the single-stage confrontational contracts that no doubt you're aware of and had some experience, and we really wanted to work in the spirit of mutual trust and cooperation. So as a company, we're looking always for opportunities, and we're very pleased when the business development came across with that potential partners were invited for a 10-year partnership in Antarctica construction programme. Wow.
Antarctica, the coldest, highest, windiest and driest continent on Earth. 99% of its surface is covered by ice up to 4 kilometres thick.
So, well, we did say risk reduction. If you've met Steve Fox, he's a good guy, but how do we sell it to him? So, we did think, wow, great scenery, wildlife. You know, there's leopard seals there like to try and eat people, orcas, and it's minus 40. So, don't know if he's going to go with that one. So, how about NERC, BAS as an employer? They're helping save the planet. You know, grabs your attention. Wow. As a profession, we want to create the solutions for that. NERC, BAS identify, as Nigel was saying, global warming. We can identify some of the civil engineering infrastructure for that. So, you know, for BAM, we're building the present, we're creating the future, so it's something we're very keen on. But also to say to them, you know, the employer really is looking for a long-term partner. They want to agree on a shared risk profile. They want to negotiate in two-stage tender process. Why is that not something we want to be part of? You know, very much synergies and common goals. So we're very keen to progress, but, well, how do we ensure success? You know, I'm sure if anybody thought they'd see Incredible Hulk in a slide today, but just like you guys that are here, top of your profession, really was key for success, was to mobilise great people, great team, integrate fully within the employer's organisation, work in mutual trust and embrace fully the spirit of the NEC, and certainly to date we've been doing that. But obviously to embrace digital construction, as we say, Antarctica, a difficult place to get to, don't get many second chances, so we really wanted to build it before we build it, and I thought I'd just share with you a 3-minute video and some of the fantastic work the team's been doing with embracing digital construction in BIM.
Here at the British Antarctic Survey Construction Partnership, we have a unique challenge. Our digital construction strategy has been key to winning the work, and I hope to showcase here how this is adding value in the current delivery phase. There are several projects within the framework, and each has its own defined BIM goals, agreed early with all stakeholders. Due to the remote nature of the site visits are extremely difficult and expensive. To understand the site, it is important therefore to digitise the information gained early using point cloud surveys from UAVs or static laser scans. Information is used to familiarise the team with the environment and to develop a 3D Revit design model complete with location coding and metadata. From this, we are able to extract quantities and develop airports models to understand their site impact and scope of work. Seeks to develop strategies for mobilisation, site logistics and materials management. By modelling our proposals from concept to detailing, we can verify our methodology and communicate the plan to the wider team. This allows us to collaboratively anticipate and mitigate risks in a virtual environment. For areas where we rely on specialist plans such as the dismantling of the existing wharf at Rothera, we are taking this one step further, to develop a virtual reality training tool to train the drivers on this specific element of works. Clear communication to the wider team is critical, particularly in a multinational joint venture. By using digital construction techniques to agree and communicate the plan, we all gain understanding quicker, increasing ownership and consolidating the team with a clear delivery strategy. This strategy really comes together in the 4D plan developed in Synchro and communicates the programme clearly to all stakeholders. I hope you enjoyed this short insight into how we use digital construction to add value in the BAS framework. Thanks for listening.
Okay, some really great stuff there that we're very, very proud of. Moving forward and ensuring that successful delivery. You know, we're here to talk about NEC. You know, a lot of the successful jobs that I've been on, the NEC remains in the top drawer on the shelf. We don't have to bring it out. And if we get the correct people, then we can ensure success. So utilising some sort of video analogies that the team that have recently returned from down south provided me with, well, you know, mobilising highly experienced, competent team always helps. The enthusiasm, teamwork and collaboration by all partners working jointly together. And always, throughout all my years of experience, I've always found it's the same. Really, it's behaviours and communicating to each other. If we can chat to each other, listen to each other in the correct manner, generally it is a success. And then we can be quite good standing there, puff our chests out and look rather important. So, what has happened? The successful partnership milestones we've had in the last 18 months. So, in less than 18 months, we've successfully delivered 2 Antarctic projects. We've got 0 accidents. We've been on programme, we've on budget. We've integrated with various partners, the MOD, Royal Navy, Chilean Navy, and we've progressed substantially design for rover modernisation and some other contracts down south. And this year we're mobilising to commence the approximately £40 million construction of the wharf. So a few photos just to give you an idea of that. This is Bird Island, just sub-Antarctica, South Georgia Islands. That was the first project where the guys have just travelled home this weekend from. Where some of the challenges was unloading the Ernest Shackleton. You see there that the tender needed to be loaded probably 150 times in mobilisation and demob to transfer our equipment across to the bay where the base is, and that's it, arriving safely there. With the team integrating with the Royal Navy to get our plant to Rovra. Some of the team and some of the planes that fly into Rovra, really beautiful place. They say if you've been, you can't explain how beautiful it is, and I fully understand that. It's just hard to put into words. That was the contractor site visit. As always, the employer arranged for a blue sky, perfect conditions. Seems to always be the case. How they do it amazes me. So yeah, we've been there, commenced some construction. Currently looking at King Edward Wharf, beautiful part of the world. And moving forward for the next few years, as Nigel was showing, moving towards the Rovra modernisation, a construction of a new built science and operations building to replace some of the existing infrastructure. And in November this year, we'll be mobilising our charter ship to deliver our plant to the existing wharf that you see there in Rovra to commence construction of that. So, what we certainly know is that we've had some challenges to date. We're certainly going to be facing probably some larger challenges. But working together, we certainly think that they can be overcome with the correct behaviours. Just to finish up, there's a short video here of what's called death of an iceberg, but showing that even what seems insurmountable can quickly be overcome. And at the end there's a nice bit to know that UK sarcastic humour's live and well in Antarctica, so if you listen out. So yeah, that I'll pass you on to David, give you some of the more details. Thank you.
Right, thanks, Graham. Right, good morning, everybody. I'm David Seaton. I'm the Senior Infrastructure Programme Manager for BAS. There's a little bio in the book about me, so I'll not tell you anything else about me. I thought I'd point out where Rotherham is, because I'm going to tell you a little bit more about one of our more challenging projects, which Graham's already talked a little bit about, which is Rotherham Wharf. Now, Rotherham is about halfway down the Antarctic peninsula, on the west side on Adelaide Island. As you can see, it's fairly remote. It's not our most remote station, that's at Halley, but it's a difficult place to get to. So what I'll talk about is how our collaborative approach to risk sharing is shaping the way we deliver this project. You've already seen a similar slide from Nigel about the kind of logistical remote environmental issues. So we're talking about extreme engineering here, and it's very difficult to get to. It's a beautiful place. That's a picture I took my first visit down there. That's the main station. The wharf is down on the right-hand side of the big picture. You can see that in the inset, but it's all pretty much close together. And that's taken at the start of the summer season, so there's still quite a lot of snow there. But there are obviously environmental challenges. So it's difficult to get to. We've got environmental challenges with snow management, with ice, sea ice. We don't know when we can get a ship there. Last couple of seasons we've tried to get ships there late November, early December, but we've had to wait till January before we've got in. And that is a major issue for us getting construction planned there. So remote environmental issues. We've also got some major technical challenges. We've talked about the new ship. It's a fantastic new ship. It's going to be a game changer for us in the way we deliver science in the polar regions. But as a civil engineer, my concern is how big it is. The bottom ship is the Ernest Shackleton, which, it's 80 metres long. The Sir David Attenborough is 128 metres long. It's actually 3 times the size. It's not 3 times the length, clearly. It's a much, much bigger ship. So that's the existing wharf with the Shackleton on it. And clearly it's not big enough or deep enough to accommodate the size of this new ship we've got. So what we're looking at is something that will end up a bit like this. We've taken a bit of a time to get round to this solution. And that's one of the benefits of the partnership, is we've managed to engage with RAMBOLL, with BAM, with BAM's in-house design team, DMC, who's based in The Hague, some real expertise trying to work out how we can deliver this. We started off by looking for a solution where we could keep the existing wharf pretty much using it throughout the construction period, but eventually had to conclude it wasn't going to work. So we're actually going to demolish the existing one and rebuild it in pretty much the same place. You can just about see from the contours in the seabed. It's actually very steep, the seabed. So it's actually the people who built it 27 years ago, the initial wharf, they basically took it as far as they thought was possible, and then stopped and said, "We can't go any further because it just won't work." Now we've got better technologies now, and we think we can go further. We're very confident we can go further, but it's technically very, very difficult. The seabed slopes at over 45 degrees. The rock is extremely hard, and it's very highly fractured. So essentially we are building a new wharf on a cliff underwater in Antarctica. So it's very remote, it's very environmentally challenging, and it's very technically challenging, both from the design point of view and from the construction point of view. And again, we need to get the benefit of these massive partners. BAM, big global consultancy, contracting partner, RAMBOLL, 13,000 odd employees, SWECO, about 17,000. We've got access to huge expertise from around the world. Everyone wants to work on these projects because they're big, sexy, glamorous projects. They're really difficult. They're really good fun, but actually they're very difficult. So that's what we're trying to do, is get a solution that we can deliver on this. You can see at the back there on the right-hand side, this lovely curved profile. That's the quarry that we're going to actually create there. And again, that brings in other issues about environmental impact. It's actually better to quarry and blast locally than it is to import stuff from outside Antarctica. But it's still got lots of issues that we have to manage through the environmental impact process, and that does take a long time. And again, it got presented to the Committee for Environmental Protection just a couple of months ago, and they actually gave us extremely good feedback. It was one of the best submissions they've ever seen, so there's a lot of confidence in what we were doing. I'm going to skip through the next slides quickly because I know we're a bit behind schedule and you've already seen some of this. Graham's talked about the dismantling. It's again a very difficult process. It's not demolition, it's careful dismantling. It's going to take about 12 weeks to do this. You've seen the pictures about creating the new structure. I can't remember if I put in a slide showing the scale of this, but those front frames, they are about 16 metres high at the deepest point. So 16 metres is very, very high. That's like a 5 and a bit storey building. So again, we've got two 300-ton cranes down there, which are about as big a crawler cranes as you get, and we've got two of them. We actually only need one, and then a 150-ton, but if the 300-ton crane breaks down, well, we can't fix it easily, because it takes it's difficult to get stuff there. So we pay extra to have basically a complete backup big crane there so we don't lose the time. And if that's not enough, the main purpose of Rother, it's a hub into Antarctica, and we've got a runway. And it's actually a really tight site. So the big long grey strip, that is the runway. It's the access way for many of the Antarctic nations into Antarctica, because if you've got a small plane, it has to hop, and Rother is the only place you can hop. Now, you think we're in Antarctica, it's not going to be that busy, the runway, but actually, we've had up to 40 aircraft movements a day at the start of the season, as all those different nations transit through Rother. When you've got 300-ton cranes parked on the wharf, which is the brown blob on the left-hand side there, that is well within the aircraft exclusion zone. So again, we have to work out how we're going to manage all the construction works. We were going to be quarrying down by the wharf, leaving the stuff there so we could basically just shovel it straight into the hole. But we can't do that because we didn't have space for it, so we've got to transport it up to the big long red strip alongside and then move it back again. I think we've got something like 16,000 dumper truck movements at one part of the season, so one every 8 minutes. That brings in a big health and safety risk because we've got lots of really bright scientists there, but they tend to be focused on science and not about 20-ton dumper trucks going backwards and forwards. So again, big risks. But we've actually concluded pretty much the biggest risk is not all the things I've been talking about, but it's actually the integration of the construction team on a live science research station where we've got 100-odd people delivering and supporting science, and then we're bringing in the 50, 60-odd construction team who are a different type of people, and we're looking at how that's affecting flights there, bed spaces, how it's affecting the amount of water we have to create through a reverse osmosis plant, power generation. Big issue for us is culture. There's a very, very strong culture there. It's going to be quite different when we've got a construction team there. So lots of things that we have to try and get our heads around. So a little bit about the NEC side of things. Now, we're NEC 3, so I'm not going to talk about NEC 4 because I don't really know anything about it. But as it's been said before this morning, we are doing what NEC 3 says. So we have got these risk registers, and we are quite clear on what we use it for. So we're not using this risk register to work out costs or drawing down things. What we're using it for is to allocate, to make it quite clear who's owning the risk and who's responsible for the risk mitigation plan. And we spend all our effort on managing the risk mitigation plan so that these risks go away, and also on the opportunity ones. So that's so we're finding it a very useful process on the risk management side. And similarly on the early warnings, everyone in our team is absolutely clear early warnings are a good thing. We love early warnings, and we use them to try and work out how we actually make things better. So I'm going to finish off by talking briefly about one of our key risks. I don't know if you can see that clear enough. So This one is about it's trying to illustrate why the partnering approach is so important for us. So, delivering the Wharf, we couldn't afford it if it took more than 2 seasons. Because every time we go back again, the big cost, Nigel's talked about logistics and so getting people and plant there and looking after them while they are there is difficult. The seasons normally run from early November through to end of March. We couldn't get a solution to work in 2 seasons without extending the season quite significantly. It's difficult to extend at the start of the first season because you've got to get shipped there through the sea ice. So we're going to the middle of May in both our, well, certainly the first season. We have never flown out of Rothera after early April before. So we were looking at how we could extend the season so we could fly these people out. It's very difficult because it's not just the case of we'll leave the plane there, because you have the whole of the ground crew, the whole of the support, sort of weather forecasters, you've got a lot of other resources. You can't just have one plane, you need a second plane for search and rescue, because planes occasionally go down and you've got to be able to rescue people. But if there was a problem with the plane, and our planes do occasionally have mechanical issues, the thought of having to leave 60 construction workers in Rothera over the winter for 6 months, it's not attractive for lots of reasons. We've spent such a long time trying to work this one out. We're now looking at what we've done is we've rescheduled some of our science efforts. So the James Clark Ross, our science vessel, is now going to take the people off the station at the end of the season. But that's not without risk as well. It's also not without cost, because the contractor was expecting his guys to fly out in 5 or 6 hours from Rothera to Punta. Now it's going to be 5 or 6 days from Rothera to either Punta or the Falkland Islands, across the Drake Passage, which is a beautiful place, can get a little bit lumpy. By constant discussion, collaboration between the BAS logistics people, Nigel talked about the 60 years of expertise that we have, we work out what is the lowest risk way of getting these people off. That's number one on our risk register, but to be perfectly honest, there's about another dozen of similar type impact or consequence if we don't manage them. So that's what our main focus is on at the moment. So I've rushed through that. I don't know if I've managed to catch up on time. No, actually I haven't. So I'm going to pass over to Bruce now, and he'll close off talking about our continuous improvement and demonstration of value and things, I think.
Yeah, thank you, David. I've got -8 minutes, I think, to catch up. When Glenn asked us to present, we said that's fine, but we need about a week, and he's given us 40 minutes. We've tried to squeeze it down. So I'm Bruce Wulff. I work for RAMBOLL, who are the design partner or the technical advisor in this partnership, and I'll be talking about some continuous improvement, the partnering relationships, and some of the collaborative solutions that we've come to. I won't harbour too long on KPIs. It's nothing too groundbreaking, but every quarter we sit down with a contractor and the client, and we tell each other how good we are and also how bad we are, and what we can do to improve. We have some key actions that we address that next quarter. And the theory is, it's not so much about the score, but that you see an upward trend of what our scores are, and then we're actually acting on what we say we're going to do, which is the graph on the bottom right. So we're getting there. So that's the processes and the behaviours taken care of in the key performance indicators. But really, that's not the most important thing for us. The most important thing, as we keep saying, is the relationships. The relationships are really built through time and trust. And the British Antarctic Survey, as Nigel said, they've been down there for 60 years. We're in the unique situation where the client actually knows more than the technical advisor. They've been down there, they've done it, and so as a consultant, we really need to do the listening. And BAS as a client, like many other clients, have probably been bitten in the past by a consultant going away and saying, okay, great, yeah, we know what you want, we're going to sit in a black hole, design it, and then they give them something, and lo and behold, it's not exactly what they want. So those relationships are so key, and they're built up on face-to-face, as Sarah's song suggested. I think every time I hear that song now, I'll be thinking about the NEC. Thank you. But yeah, communication, etc. So once we have that relationship built up, then we can start actually coming to some solutions with the client, listening to them and giving our expertise, and together coming up with some good solutions. And this is just an example. So we talked about the snow build-up at Rothera. This is a picture of Rothera, and I'm going to show you 12 pictures taken from the same spot at consecutive months through the year, just to show how that snow builds up. So this is at the height of their lovely summer. And you'll see the days start to darken and the snow starts to build up, the sea's freezing. And if you keep your eye on the building on the left there, you'll see it slowly disappear in the snow. Now, if that's your accommodation building and you're using your window as a fire escape, it's a pretty tiresome thing every morning to have to go out and spend 3 hours shoveling that out again, only for the wind to come in the next night and have to do it all over again. So timely, costly. So we had to come up with solutions that hopefully we can build some buildings that won't actually cover in snow. And we spent a lot of effort building a scale model in a water flume and throwing sand in there and seeing how it behaves of the existing station, and doing that with the client so they could say, yes, actually now it's behaving as it does on site. We've been there for 40 years and that model is actually working correctly now. And then we could start putting new buildings on and seeing whether we could reduce that snow buildup. And just another example of a case of designing with the client. So this is Rothera again. You can see the end of the airstrip. That dark line to the right is the wharf, the existing wharf, and in front of it is this huge iceberg, pretty much the size of the station itself. And to try and design something that can withstand an iceberg of that size is obviously not practicable. So we have to come up with pragmatic solutions, sometimes straying away from the standards, and really listening to the client again. How does the icebergs behave, their flow, the currents, and coming up with a solution that's workable.